Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second session of A Day in the Life series as CyberSafe Foundation. My name is Dawn Lumbi, and I will be hosting the session today. We have a special guest today called Veronica Ikpa. And just to introduce what the A Day in the Life series is about, it's essentially a session where we get to sit and ask questions with a professional in a specific field. And the intention here is to engage our cyber goals and other professionals and enthusiasts in cybersecurity in order for them to hear more about a specific profession in the cybersecurity field. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest, Veronica, and I'd like to read her bio. So, Veronica is a result oriented cybersecurity professional with experience in information security, governance, risk compliance, and assurance. She has expertise in ensuring that businesses incorporate global cybersecurity standards and best practices to secure the data, assets, and infrastructure within their business environments. She has worked across the IT, healthcare, cloud, data center, and telecommunications industry, and she's passionate about volunteering and mentoring children and young girls from minor communities to build a career in cybersecurity and technology. That is a mouthful, and that is so impressive, Veronica. We're happy to have you here. How are
Hi,
you?
hi everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for having me on this series. Thanks for the introduction as well. My name is Veronica, and I'm happy to be here. Uh, I'm happy to be here and walk you all through a day in the life of a critical infrastructure security professional. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. So, just to get straight into it, we will now be addressing your profession in the critical infrastructure and security, your profession as a critical infrastructure security professional. So, I guess what we're all dying to know, Veronica, is what inspired you to pursue a career in critical infrastructure security, and how has your motivation evolved over time?
So my career in critical infrastructure did not just start as a straight dive into critical infrastructure. I started as a security auditor and progressed into a security specialist. But I worked in industries with businesses that fall under critical infrastructure. As we all know, critical infrastructure is protecting systems and network across industries that are critical to the running of any nation. And in these industries, you have the healthcare, you have the telecommunication, you also have the transportation services, you have communication, you have banking services. And fortunately, I've been able to work across all of these industries, right? With businesses that provide critical services, not just to consumers and end users and people who use these solutions, but also businesses who fall onto these other businesses for providing critical services and operations, right? And I've evolved over the years. I started working in the healthcare as a security auditor, and then I moved into telecommunication services, working with telco services, providing um, fiber optics connection to other businesses. And then when there's a downtime, you realize that it not just affects just one business, but all of the entire businesses within this entire supply chain, right? And from there, I also moved into teleco, but this time I work as a consultant, right, for um, businesses, government businesses that rely on infrastructure for them to be able to run. And these businesses are such that they are like the backbone of the entire economy of these countries, right? So if there's a shutdown on any operations or whatsoever, it's going to affect everyone in the entire circle. It's going to affect people. It's going to affect um, other businesses. It's going to affect the government as well, because there's going to be a huge loss of money. And so my career has also evolved, and it's also the fact that I've always been open to look at what industries I want to work in. So I building my career, I had specific industries I wanted to work in. I wanted to work in the telco space. I wanted to work in the healthcare space. I also wanted to work in transportation space as well. And fortunately enough, I've worked with key companies that provide all of the services and also support not just the businesses, but also the support and provide them consultants and for not just the businesses, but also the government as well.
Oh, wow. Thank you for such a comprehensive answer, Veronica, to our question. And from what I've just observed from your answer, you've moonlighted across a number of different industries, but still maintaining the exact same expertise.
Exactly.
So, what I'm getting from that is critical infrastructure security is very vast and it can be applied in different instances. But I guess a follow up question to that, and this is for my cyber girls and the fellows and any other cybersecurity enthusiasts who are on this live stream. How has have you observed any ways that your expertise has had to be molded or changed within these specific industries? And I ask this because I mean, when you're in the healthcare industry, your expertise can be exerted a certain way, but when you're in the telco industry, maybe your expertise is needed in a specific way. So just to provide more context into that, how has your expertise have to be had to be molded or evolved like as you moonlighted across all these different industries?
So first things first is I had to be open to learning. So the security risk in the healthcare industry is totally different from the security risk in the telco. It's totally different from security risks in the railway. The way someone is going to, the similar approach for threat actors to be able to attack this industry are quite similar, but what they are looking for, it's kind of different, right? And also the key, when you look at the CIA triad, the importance of the CIA triad is quite different in these industries, right? So for the healthcare, you're looking at confidentiality and privacy. In the telco, you're looking at integrity and availability and confidentiality as well. In the
Mm-hmm.
transport, you're looking at availability and confidentiality as well. In the energy sector, you're looking at availability, right? Nobody wants a downtime in energy. So it's kind of different. So you have to be able to understand the industry you're moving in. You have to know that coming from the healthcare background, I'm going to telco background. I have to understand how the telco industry works. What are the key security risks to the telco industry? What are the key security criteria for the telco industry? Going into any other aspect of critical infrastructure, you have to understand how that industry works, right? It's possible to be able to apply your knowledge based on it's as long as you have foundation security in knowledge and understanding, it's possible for you to apply that knowledge and transfer the knowledge across these industries. But you need to understand how this industry works. What are the standards? What are the frameworks? What are the government rules and regulations? It's entirely different. So for the financial sector, it's completely different. The rules, the regulations, the security risk, um, um, the security risks, the security importance. So probably they're looking at confidentiality and integrity of financial data, right? But you're looking when you go to another industry, they're looking at something entirely different. The regulations are different. You have different regulation security bodies. So you need to understand how does this industry operate? What are the regulations? What are the frameworks? What are the standards? What are the key government requirements for these different industries? What has the government said that what are the reporting the what guidelines or framework or standards or rules and regulation has the government set for these particular industries? What are my key risks? How do I what are the key risks or what are the key security attacks that this industry has faced globally? How can I bring that down to my local environment or where I am seated locally and apply that to my industry as well?
Oh, wow. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Veronica. And so, what I really get from that is it's really just about being open to learning, being teachable, and also having the
Mm-hmm.
skills to apply those skills within your industry. So that's really about this, Veronica. And so, what I really get from that is because it's just a specific, it's just one format, or it just has to be one way, and it's very exciting to hear that you, as a critical infrastructure professional, you've been in different industries, and it's essentially just about being teachable and being open to learning consistently. So thank you so much for that context. So our other question is, can you please describe a typical day in your life, in your role as a critical infrastructure security professional? What are your main tasks and your main responsibilities?
So my my tasks kind of differ each day, but it's also the responsibilities are still the same. So I have to I have to work with different business. So I have to work with different organizations, understand their security risk, advise them on these are the gaps within your business infrastructure. These are the gaps that you have. These are the risks that you'd face. This is a proper security mitigation process that would help secure your business. Um, these are the recommendations that you have to do. If there's a change in government policy, there's a change in government industry best practices or frameworks, you have to apply that to your business. So I have to regularly keep abreast of what risks are there, what government policies are there, what frameworks are there. What gaps are within the business infrastructure? How have they been able to mitigate those gaps? What other existing gaps are there? How can they better secure the entire network infrastructure from cyber threats?
All right, that sounds great. So I'm also getting there that I get why you said that you also act as a consultant, because as a consultant, I understand you come into a company with a wealth of knowledge, and you then have to, use this knowledge to help them expand, or just magnify how they deliver their services, and also how they protect their infrastructure and their digital services. So thank you for
Yeah.
this. And so, how would you respond to a security incident within a critical infrastructure system? Can you walk us through the steps that you would take in the event of a security incident?
Okay, so in the event of a security incident, first of all, you need to be able to, which is funny because I was taking a class some days ago and we had to sit down, and then everyone had to analyze. So if there's a security risk in the airline industry, airline industry, right? So if there's a security incident, how do you manage that? And we all had to brainstorm because also the airline is a critical infrastructure, right? It's under transportation. And so for you to be able to walk through a security incident, first of all, when you identify a security incident, when you get information from either your SOC team or the CISO or the security manager that there's an incident, you have to be able to properly manage that incident, right? You have to be able to assess the degree of, you have to identify the source. First of all, as the attack is going on or the incident has occurred, you need to understand the source of the incident immediately. You need to understand how much impact that incident has had on your network infrastructure. You need to be able to isolate. Now, because it's a critical, in the critical infrastructure, you cannot just shut down because there are critical services running, right? You can't just shut down if it's the energy industry. Within the energy space, you can't just shut down the power station. You have to be able to manage it such that people are not being affected, and there's also minimal loss as well. So you need to be able to isolate immediately the cause of the incident, right? With your SOAP team, the CISO team, be able to isolate that incident. And once you're able to isolate that incident, you're able to look for if you have backups, if you have recovery solutions. Make sure you have your backups running for you to be able to recover. But once you're able to isolate the incident from the entire network, right? You need to also assess the impact. So, what has happened? So, I've isolated this incident. How much impact has it had on my entire network? Do I have a backup solution that we can quickly fail over to? Do I have manual processes that I can easily override to? Is there a manual process that can quickly be activated and run simultaneously such that people can be transferred to the manual process, the manual override, and there's very little there's very minimal impact on people and operations while you're still trying to manage the incident, right? You can have, and especially when it comes to critical infrastructure, trust me, you have, we have the biggest threat actors as nation state actors, right? These are the biggest guys, because once you shut down a critical infrastructure, either through ransomware, either through an exploit, either through a USB SIM, USB connection. Once you're able to shut down the critical infrastructure, there's going to be a huge loss. The loss is in minutes, right? So how much money is are they losing? And because most times the critical infrastructure systems run on SCADA systems, industrial control system, it's also, you'll realize recovering is quite difficult, right? So you need to be able to somehow have your backups ready to be able to do a manual override to systems that can easily pick up and run while you're able to isolate that particular incident and manage it on time and transfer people to the manual system while you're trying to sort out the incident, trying to figure out how we are able to run through your recovery process, run through your investigations. How did this occur? How do we recover? How do we pick up operations back? So it's really important that the security response team also know, they also have practiced their incident response. They also know the regulatory requirements for reporting an incident, right? Within the critical infrastructure, once there's a shutdown, it depends on also the government, the nation this where your businesses are operating from. So for each country, they have a stipulated guideline for any incident on any critical infrastructure. This is when we want you to report. This is how we want you to report it. This is who you need to contact. And so it's important that while you are isolating the incident, your legal team, there's someone that in communications also informing the public, because any impact on critical infrastructure affects the entire public. So it's not just an isolated incident where you're affecting all my operations. I can hush and just tell customers, oh, this is what happened, we've recovered. No, when you have incidents on critical infrastructure, it affects the entire public. So you have to be able to be able to aware of the timeline for reporting, such that you have your communication team on ground. There's a communication team on ground, the legal team on ground. They're able to look to government requirements and immediately alert the government that there's an incident on our critical infrastructure. We've been able to do XYZ. The government can easily come in and say, okay, we would help you investigate to know what the source. Is it a nation state actor? Is it a script kiddie? Is it someone trying to shut down the energy sector or the transport sector as well? And then you have the marketing team or the communications team on ground, or someone responsible for communication, letting the public know that this is what has happened, this is what we are doing to recover, this is the backup system, or this is the manual override we have provided. You can transfer here while we manage this incident as well.
Oh, wow, Veronica, it sounds like as a critical infrastructure professional, you are literally carrying an entire organization in your hands, because how you respond can literally just it dictates everything. So what I got from that is the steps that you usually take when you're responding to a security incident is you need to identify the source of the incident, you need to isolate the incident, and then you need to obviously also assess the impact and obviously mitigate against the incident. And I'm also getting that there's an inclusion of a whole other departments and industries within the organization. So as a critical infrastructure professional, you will not be working alone. You're working in tandem with other professionals who are going to be assisting you, such as the legal department as well. And so, I guess this is then a follow up question to what I just mentioned. And how do you work with other stakeholders within a critical infrastructure system, such as your engineers, your IT staff, and your management, to ensure that security is integrated throughout the system's life cycle?
So similar to IT, security is not a standalone solution, right? These days, security is integrated into the life cycle of business processes, right? And that also spills over to critical infrastructure. For any critical infrastructure, for any business within the critical infrastructure industry, as a cybersecurity person or professional in that industry, you have to work with everyone. You're working with and resources for background checks. You're working with IT to ensure that the systems are deployed correctly, the OT system. So most times you have OT, you have IT, OT, IT. The IT is responsible for the Wi-Fi connectivity, the communication, business communication services, and then you have the operational technology. Those are the ones responsible for SCADA systems, the ICE industrial control systems, and all of that. So at some point, there's going to be a handshake, right, between the OT and so at that point, you need to be able to understand how can we separate the IT network from our OT network such that there's no risk from IT coming into our critical infrastructure system that's under the OT? And also how do we better ensure that people have the right skills, they've sent for the right training, what are the regulations that the IT guys need to know about? And then you also need to work with management as well because you're reporting not just on the critical, you're reporting as an entire business, right? Whatever industry or whatever business that is, they sit within an industry, and you're reporting as an entire business within that industry to either the government or to your stakeholders as well. So you also need to work with um, um, management as well to let them have an oversight of this is our security posture, this is where we are. These are the security risks to our critical environment and security risks to our IT environment. This is how we can separate communication securely so we don't have any malicious traffic flowing in. You also have to work with everyone. You have to work with the communication staff, you have to work with the communication people, right? The people responsible for communication. Because if there's a breach, that's where incident response plan come in, right? There has to be a strategic communication plan such that if there's a breach, there's someone who has a default template and can immediately pick it up to respond to the entire public, to stakeholders, that this is what has gone wrong, and this is what we are doing to be able to mitigate that, to be able to recover from that security incident. So in in the critical infrastructure industry as well, across different businesses, across different sectors, you're working with everyone, right? You also have to be able to not just work within your business, but also across sectors as well. For each sector to know, oh, these are the cyber risks, these are the threat actors that have been attacking us. This is what we are seeing. These are the models, or this is their mode of operations. Indicators of compromises is how they would be able to compromise your network as well or your business as well.
Understood. So there again, cyber goals and other cyber enthusiasts on this live, critical infrastructure, the critical security infrastructure is really just about integrating knowledge and integrating knowledge across sectors in order for you to feel well and competently in this space, because that's also what I'm getting from Veronica. So I guess then this is what everyone is dying to know that is on this live stream. As a cybersecurity fellow and a student who is just about to kickstart a career in cybersecurity, what are some of the most important technical and non-technical skills for success in your field specifically, and how can one acquire or develop these skills?
So I'll start with the technical skills. You need to understand network infrastructure, right? You need to understand how the network works. Now, for
Uh-huh.
you to be able to excel in the old cybersecurity or critical infrastructure industry, you are not expected to limit your knowledge to just IT network. You need to understand how OT networks work as well, how SCADA systems work, how they operate, and how they are integrated with IT, um, how operations, how these two different systems interact with each other. So you need to understand OT, you need to understand IT, and basically you need to understand basic network infrastructure. You don't so as long as you have the basic understanding, the background understanding of how these two different networks work, you're good to go. Secondly, you need to understand the standards are quite different, right? So in the IT industry, you have ISO, you have ISO
Mm-hmm.
271. In the OT, you have 62443. You need to understand these standards, right? You need to understand NIST CSF, NIST cybersecurity framework as well, which is which is one of the most basic frameworks for critical infrastructure, securing critical infrastructure industries. So you need to understand NIST CSF. You need to also be able to communicate. Communication skill is very important because you're going to be speaking with people across two different technical networks, two different technical network operations, right? You have the IT guys, you have the OT guys. The IT guys are more interested in confidentiality, right? The OT guys are more interested in availability. So whatever you're doing that's going to affect the availability of an OT operational network is going to you have to understand what sort of operations or security operations can impact those. So you need to understand, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be able to speak, you need to be able to learn, be open to learning, right? You have to learn every day. You have to be open to learning. You cannot exhaust how much you can learn. Um, IT is always changing. The cybersecurity risks are always evolving. The threat attacks are always evolving. The IoTs, their mode of operations, their threats, their techniques are always evolving. So you need to be open to learning as well. Have a learning plan for yourself. You also need to keep yourself abreast of regulations, standards, what industry fall under critical infrastructure of the country where I sit in, what industries what should these industries be protecting, right? How should they properly protect all of this? So you need to also be abreast of different. So you cannot just limit yourself to just cloud security. You can't just limit yourself to just IT security. You have to be open to learning security across these different industries. So how does the financial sector work? How do they secure their operations? How does the telco sector work? How does security operations? How does the healthcare sector work? How do they secure their operations? So you need to be open to learning. Open to learning is very important for you to be able to develop your skills as well.
Thank you, Veronica. You speak a lot about learning and learning the ways of the trade within specific industries and in specific sectors. So, as a new cybersecurity, as a person who's new in the cybersecurity field, and I mean, let's say I'm just getting into cybersecurity through this program, the Cyber Girl Scholarship, what resources can I look to learn? Because I understand that you've had lots of experience professionally within different industries, but as people who are just beginning this journey, what kind of resources can they look to acquire all this knowledge and to acquire all these skills? Of course, knowing that skills are only practiced over time and you really get better at something the more you do it. So they may not really have that much skill up until they get placed into a
Yeah.
position, professional position. However, just to prepare them and to act as a buffer, where can they look to for resources that can help them learn what security looks like in finance, what it looks like in the education sector, what it looks like in healthcare? Where can they get these resources?
So for them to be able to learn, they can start from NIST. NIST has a lot of NIST has a lot of information for them. They can also reach out to CISA. CISA as well has they have a section on critical infrastructure. That's the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. I think that's related to it's an American agency. So they have a lot of resources on how securing critical infrastructure security works. Basic knowledge. So you have basic learning resources, um, basic resources you can start with. But what I would advise as well is they should do a research on the different sectors under the critical infrastructure industry, right? They should look through all of the sectors and figure out which of the sectors will I love to work in, which of the sectors will I love to start my career in. And then when you're able to pick that sector, you go and study or do your research on What are the security risks to the financial industry? What are the security regulations to the financial industry? What has my government said that this should be done? What standards should the financial industry comply with? How do you secure financial industry networks? So from being able to look through all of the sectors, being able to go down to what sector will I love to start my career in, what are the critical risk or security risk or information to these industries that I have to look out for, how do I protect these industries, right? And then it goes down to, and then as you keep going down, breaking it down, you're able to figure out, so in the financial space, where do I start from? Do I start as an auditor? Do I start as the network security specialist? Do I start as a um, GRC consultant? Do I start as a cloud consultant within these different industries, right? The good thing is all of these industries run with IT. So irrespective of they have the OT aspect, they also have the IT. So it's that way it's easy for you to come in through IT because you have IT security knowledge. And then while you're there, you're able to build your understanding of OT and how it works and how you need to secure the critical aspects of their infrastructure. And then that way you're able to merge your understanding or your learning together and say, oh, for the IT, this is what we do, but we understand how the OT networks integrate into our networks. And this is the recommendations we are going to give to you that this is how you can secure your IT network. This is how you can also secure the OT network. And then this is how they can also integrate and communicate as well.
That's absolutely solid advice. Thank you so much for that, Veronica. So it really sounds like within this field, you're really the master of your own fate. You determine where you want to be by researching firstly, and then deciding that okay, this is the field and this is the sector that I want to focus on, and of course, then collecting the kind of research and resources that you need in order for you to be prepared to access that sector. But also, what I also feel the cyber girls should actually take from this is that it may take a while to actually find your niche.
Yeah,
Um,
it will definitely take a while. You can
mm,
start from an industry and you'll be like, no, I don't like what I'm doing. And then go
absolutely,
to another industry and like, okay, I don't like what I'm doing, but I like these aspects of what I'm doing. How can I apply it in this industry? What are the career progression plan? And as a cyber girl, you are responsible for your progression. You have
absolutely,
a plan. It's really important to have a plan. So you tell yourself, I'm going to work in this industry and I'm going to work in this industry. I'm going to work in this industry. So you have to have a plan for yourself. You have to be able to push yourself
mm,
to according to that plan. No one's going to push you. No one's going to. Um, you will have people who will encourage you and mentor you, but you can be the only one who can push yourself to excel in whatever you do.
absolutely. Thank you for that, Veronica. And so now that we've discussed the resources and that knowing that you are essentially the master of your progress and the master of way of how you move throughout this space. I'm sure something else that they would like to know is what job opportunities and career paths within critical infrastructure security can they look up to, and how can they decide or determine which path is the best for their skills and interests?
So in this industry, right, you don't have, for starters, you don't have the heart. You have to
Mm,
start somewhere. So which
okay.
is why I said earlier, they have to ask themselves, what industry will I love to work in? So probably you love financial aspect. You have to start from, you have to have the basic security knowledge. So you have to be
Mm,
able to get through the door through your basic security knowledge. Then you scan and figure out, okay, do I like being a GRC consultant for critical infrastructure? Would I rather want to be a network security specialist managing networks of critical infrastructure? Do I want to be IT? So you can't just isolate yourself and say, this is my career path, this is how I'm going to grow. because you have to start from somewhere basic. You have to either start from you can either start from a network infrastructure specialist, you can either start from um, a network or cloud for cloud, or you can either start from I started as a security auditor, moved in security specialist as well, and now I'm a consultant. So you can start from anywhere. You just need to be able to get into the organization as basic. So you need your basic knowledge. You need to streamline your you need to break it down to where do I see myself in 5 years time. I probably want to be working in telco space because I understand how I love what the telco does. Or where do I see myself in 5 years time? I want to work with energy, or I want to work with AI, right? And you want to work with
Mm.
electric cars, you want to secure IT, OT, IoT devices. Now, for you to be able to get to IoT devices, you need to understand what career paths are available for me, what skills do I need to be able to excel in this field, where can I start from?
So there you have it all. It's literally just about deciding where do you want to be, who you want to be in this space, and how you're going to get there. You invent and you can reinvent yourself as many times as you can within critical infrastructure security. All right. So, Veronica, a question to you. How do you stay motivated and engaged in your career? And what strategies have you found most effective for staying energized about your work?
So how do I stay motivated? Um, I have to motivate myself actually. I wake up every to be motivated, I have to motivate myself. I have to say, I can do all things, right? Because uh,
Mm,
there are days when you feel like I don't know what I'm doing, right? Because
absolutely.
it's very huge and wide and vast, and
Mm,
you have to be open to learning, right? And
mm,
sometimes learning is a very steep, difficult path, but you have to be
absolutely.
open to learning. So there are times when you're learning and it's completely different from, let's say you're coming from a different background, industry background, and you're moving to another industry, and it's completely different from what you're used to, and you have to. It's still the same cybersecurity, but it's a different approach. So you have
Mm,
to tell yourself, I can do this, I can do this. And then continuous practice makes perfection. Be open to failing. Know that you're going to fail. Know that you're not going to get it the first time, the second time, the third time. But you have to motivate yourself and tell yourself, I'm going to get it either ways. And I'm going to get it. I'm going to be the best in what I do. Wherever I go, I'm going to be the best in whatever I do, right? So you have to motivate yourself. You look yourself in the mirror every day and say, hey, I did it today. Tomorrow is
mm,
another day I can do it, right? And
mm.
where your openness to learning, you also have to be able to reach out to people, because there are people who have faced the same problems as you have faced. There are people
Yes.
who have faced the same struggles as you have faced, and they've been able to make it through, and they're just there waiting for you to reach out to them, and they'll be the sometimes they'll be the push you need. So they'll be the one who tell you, don't worry, everything will be okay. It's just a phase, you'll get over it, right? So you have to be able to reach out to people, build your network, build your connection, uh, engage, communicate, tell yourself, oh, this is the progress I've made. Also, look for not just aside people, look for mentoring programs, mentorship programs, security groups, security connections. There'll be people there who'll be willing to help you. And gradually, you'll be able to not just internally motivate yourself, but you also have external motivation from people as well.
I love your answer to that, Veronica. And I love especially how you said that you have to motivate yourself. Oh, Veronica, I think we lost you there for a bit.
I'm still here. Hello?
She
Can you see me?
Okay, no, we lost you there for a bit. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can.
Absolutely. I was saying that I love your answer to that because the ladies on this call, on this live stream, look up to you. And I think it's very comforting for them to see a Black woman who's excellent, but one who's also admitting that it is hard. There are days where it gets really challenging, and there are days where you have to seek assistance internally and also externally. And I feel like that's very important to highlight here because the majority of this cohort are Black women, and Black women often associate tired or associate a bad day with work, and that is definitely something that debunk. And I'm glad that you've highlighted that you also rely on because often again as Black women we ask for help. We find it very hard to ask for help. So thank you for sharing that. And I guess now that you've spoken about the challenging parts, which rewarding experiences have you had in your career, and how have those experiences impacted your professional journey?
So experiences I've had that have impacted my journey positively is when I'm able to figure out a roadblock, when I'm able to go above and above to deliver. I feel so happy and I'm like, yes, I did it. And that's sort of a motivation because that way you stay motivated to tell yourself, you did this, you can do the next one. It's you'll figure it out, right? So it's being able to motivate, being able to accept challenges, deliver results, overcome those challenges and deliver results. And not just deliver result, but deliver result that people see and they're like, you did a good job. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did it. Yeah, because that is what I wanted, right? And working such that you have not just it's just excellence wherever you go, right? So wherever your
Mm,
name is mentioned, wherever your work is seen, your work speaks for yourself before you even show up, and they're like, oh, it has to be Veronica that did this. Yes, this is
uh-huh.
what she can do. So it's those are the things that motivate me as well, and not just that, also having seen other people excel and succeed, right? Because sometimes you can feel so you probably would have doubts, but when you see somebody else doing it, you're like, well, if they can't do it, I can't do it, so what's stopping me, right? So
Mm,
seeing people excel as well, not just older people, younger people as well, cheering people up and telling them, hey, I did it as well, so you can, and I'll help you
mm,
out doing it, right? So as well long as everyone is succeeding, right? It's yeah, it gives me so much joy.
absolutely. So building a brand of excellence. That's
Exactly.
that's been your most rewarding experiences. Absolutely, I get that. So Veronica, we are near the end of our conversation, but just as to end off this conversation, this lovely conversation, could you share a piece of technology or tool that you've particularly excited about, and how do you see this shaping the future of cybersecurity?
Well, I see AI.
Uh-huh. I knew you were
I
gonna say that. How did I
actually
know?
AI. So there's a good part and there's the bad part, right? The good
Uh-huh.
part is you can build your scripts, you can use tools and technologies makes work
Mm-hmm.
easier for you. You can use AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, especially for threat detection. Um, for SOAP teams, your AI can be able to identify threats, malicious threats, based on how much information you fed to them, right? But then there's the bad part of AI where people can use AI to actually compromise your network. They can use AI. Let's take,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, um, there's this very popular AI app that everybody's using, right? And then you can use it to just you can use it to get information. You can use it to be able to get tests or other stuff that normally people would write down themselves and get their grades, that they actually just write it. You
Yep.
have the apps doing all those things for you in a split second, and it saves everybody. But then again, it's bypassing the normal process, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the part of AI, there's a bad part of AI, which is why even in cybersecurity, you need to understand ethics as well. That's where
Mm-hmm.
the legal comes in. So, what are the ethics of cybersecurity? What are the ethics of this new profession, new innovation? You also need to keep abreast of what AI is doing, how much is changing the world, the industry, what are the security risks associated as well. What should I look out for? So, I'm excited about AI, but it also has a good and a bad side. So, well, we're looking at the positive, good side, and as cybersecurity person, we're also looking at the bad side as well. So, whatever
Yeah,
doesn't really work, to mitigate it.
I absolutely see AI changing the landscape of ethics because now we're going to have to interrogate what ethics actually are. Because if there's a tool that allows the bypassing of so many processes, um, I mean, then how do we then interrogate the conversation about ethics? But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Veronica, and thank you so much for joining us on this live stream. I've enjoyed talking to you. I've enjoyed engaging with you, and I hope that our cyber goals and our other cybersecurity enthusiasts on this live stream have also learned so much from you. I, for one, have learned so much. We would like to thank our sponsors as the Cyber Goals Fellowship. Our sponsors including AWS, Hack the Box, Networking Academy, Cisco, ISC, ARC, InfoSec. Thank you for making this possible for us. And yeah, so that concludes our session today. And I hope that they have taken as much as they could from you and they've learned as much as they could for you from you. Thank you
You
so much, Veronica.
on this session. Thank you to everyone from the CyberSafe team as well. I'm really honored to be here um, on this call as well. So thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Veronica. Bye.
Bye bye.